No intro today, guys. Today we're going straight into the build. Thank you everyone for joining me here for the last Beholder video. If you haven't seen the last video on how to make the Spectator, I advise you watch that video first. If you are all caught up, let's get crafty. For the eye stalks on the Beholder, we will be combining both techniques from the Spectator and the Death Tyrant video. You will need aluminum and wire. You want to roll up the aluminum as tight as possible around the wire. Glue a bead at the end and add some magic dust. Now do that 9 more times. Here's our Beholder's face. Again, check out the Spectator video if you want to learn how to make this. I made some small cones out of clay. This will be the horns. I made the main 2 front horns extra pointy and curvy. I proceed to glue them with hot glue. Make sure to curve your eye stalks to give them a more dynamic look when you glue them. We're gonna start poking some holes for the eye stalk and the stick that will attach the Beholder to the base. You don't want to apply too much pressure. It should be fairly easy to poke some holes in the aluminum. When you attach the stick, finish gluing it off with some magic dust. For the eye stalks, make sure you somewhat plan how you want the position of them to be. Add any curvature to the eye stalks that you think will make the piece more interesting. Here I'm just applying the last horn before I move on to finally gluing the eye stalks. When you have an idea where to place all the eye stalks, start gluing. I like to not be paranoid about them breaking off, so you know I'm adding a good amount of baking soda and crazy glue. And if you want to go a little bit extra, I would suggest that you add baking soda and crazy glue to the whole eye stalk. At this point, you want to get rid of all the gaps in between the Beholder and the horns. We're going to be doing that by adding some clay. You can add a little bit of water to the Beholder if you want the clay to stick to it better. It might have been easier for you to do this step before adding the eye stalks. My bad, guys. Once you're done struggling with that, add a small layer of clay to the back of the Beholder. We're gonna texture this in just a minute. This next part, I'm gonna be using a wire with a loop at the end. I don't know what it's called. All I know is that it's used for jewelry. But we're gonna be using it to add a scale-like texture to the back of the Beholder. Here, I'm just bending the wire to make it easy for me to just stamp it onto the Beholder. Keep in mind the design and pace yourself. Work your way from top to bottom. And with that, you're done. You have yourself a popsicle. Let's get to painting this dude. I start by putting a black base coat. Then, I add a reddish brown. I then continue by dry brushing white. Water down your red before applying it to your Beholder. That way, you can add the red in layers for a better effect. I'm going with warm colors, so yellow, orange, and red. I somewhat dry brush the orange on selected areas. I choose these areas by assuming where the light will hit the beholder. Also, think about what areas you want to pop. And continue to highlight those areas with yellow. On some points you're gonna want to dry brush. Here I'm just adding pink to the gums. Make sure it's a dark pink. Work your way from that dark pink to a regular pink and then an almost white pink. And then add that final touch with white, which I'm also making sure the eyes are completely white. The teeth are simple. Start by adding brown, then a flesh tone, then finish it off by highlighting the tips with white. This is everyone's favorite part on this build, the green eyes. Use your smallest brush for this. You want to take your time on this step. Make the green as round as possible around the hole of the bead. Use that to compare your green circle. Also, make it big enough. Big enough so that later on you can add some highlights to it. But first, let's add some shadows to the eyeballs. Use a very light gray for this and only add on the underside. For the main eye, add it on the bottom, but also add it where the eyebrow would cast a shadow on it. Get your white paint, we're gonna start adding the highlights to the eyes. Do one dot on the top and another one on the bottom. We're getting to the final steps here, so I'm making sure all my shadows are as dark as possible before I proceed. Then I do the same thing with my highlights. The very final step I do is to check that all my colors transition in an organic manner. Thank you everyone for watching this episode of Franky D Crafter. If you want to learn more about the craft or what I do here on this channel, hit that like and subscribe button. You can also come visit me on Patreon, where you can become an exclusive patron of mine and reap from the perks and benefits I offer as a token of my appreciation for your support. With your support, I'll be able to produce and craft more videos like this one and much more. Thank you very much again. I hope you liked the videos. If you did, it means a lot to me. I'll catch you on the flippity side.